If I told you going in that I thought it was going to work, I'd be lying my off. I didn't know. The rules of music have changed. It's been my life for 20 years. That's what everything else has revolved around. The plastic guitar, the plastic microphone, putting on shows for an audience of one. And over the last 20 years, we've turned it into something you don't see often in music anymore. If this thing about living each day to the fullest is legit, then I need to follow something I'm passionate about. Man, everything can be over in a second. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Hey y'all, it's Pat. Welcome to another episode of Like a Farmer. I got a legend on the show today. He's going to get mad that I even call him a legend. Back in Nashville, got Brantley Gilbert on the show. We're going to be talking country music. We're going to be talking farming. We're going to talk tattoos, talk some family, talk some football. We're going to have a good time. Let's get into it. BG.
What's up, brother?
I'm pumped, man.
You and me both, bro.
Like, I got to tell you, so we started this media company about a year and a half ago, and the idea is, how can we celebrate rural America? We feel like the lifestyle now, which is great, everybody wants to get back into it. Everybody wants to wear boots and drive a pickup truck and buy a farm and learn how to fish and hunt. And so we come into Nashville, and it's like, well, who do we want on the show? Who's been doing this? And immediately, I was in Tampa at your show, and somebody asked a question, what do you have to say to the farmer? And the answer that you gave, and it was actually my little brother who asked you that, and like, you to a T understand the farmer, and I've been waiting for this episode for a long time, so I'm pumped to have you on the show.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me.
How do you feel about the farmer? I want to start right to that. Like, what do you have this passion for obviously being outdoors. You got a great farm back home in Georgia, but like, where does that passion come from?
Well, man, I tell you, I grew up working farms around our small town, and it's crazy to see how that's kind of evolved. From back then, it was, they're kind of sitting on top of the world, seemingly. And, as we're getting older, and talking to them, seeing some of the challenges they faced, and really, we've got an ag piece coming out pretty soon. And, we've had a camera crew traveling around the country talking to different farmers in different regions, just about the challenges they're facing, a lot of which I was just ignorant to. You got your obvious urban sprawl type things, but also where, a lot of these big money guys are buying up property, just to hunt. And I've been guilty of that, a time or two, but, seeing, the different challenges facing these farmers, different kind of farmers all over the country, whether it's, big ag or whether it's a farmer just starting out. We were able to come face to face with a lot of that stuff. We did a thing a while back with a tractor company where, they were donating tractors to, new, farmers. And, there were a couple guys that were generational farmers, but mostly, it was all veterans. And there were a bunch of guys and girls, starting, just brand new small farms, and talking to them and just hearing how difficult that culture has become. I mean, from my recollection, I don't ever remember talking to a farmer and them just saying it was easy breezy. It's never been an easy thing, but, as the world's changing, it seems like there's a lot of intensity on pushing that lifestyle and that culture out. And, I mean, it's what the foundation of this country sits on.
You're exactly right. I think the cool thing is, too, and this is not me alluding to you that you're pretty damn old, but how long you've been doing music, and now the generations of farmers that are Brantley Gilbert fans, like, it's so cool. You speak to the farmer through your music, and I want to start all the way back growing up in Georgia. You want to talk about a pipeline. Like, the pipeline from Georgia to Nashville, Tennessee, when it comes to country music is just crazy to me. Everybody who's come from that state. But how was it growing up in Georgia?
Man, music-wise, especially when we were coming up, when I was 14 or 15, I ran into a cover band, and we played everything from VFW, Hole in the Walls, biker bars, biker clubhouses. Around the time I was 17, I ran into a guy named Corey Smith in my hometown, who to this day and will always be one of my main inspirations when it comes to songwriting. Between him and Skinner, they told me it was all right to write about home and about, street names and river names and things that you might think aren't extremely relatable. It's crazy to watch how listeners take that and insert street name where you got yours, and it seems to be the songs that are closer to the chest are the ones that people relate to more. But I remember getting on the road with him. He was playing a lot of college markets in our state, and then branching out to Florida and then the whole Southeast. But Georgia really had its own pipeline back then. Well, you mentioned a pipeline. We had our own circuit. In Texas, a lot of those guys have that. I mean, they have their own Red Dirt Countdown. It's a whole thing. For years we had that in Georgia. It slowed down a little bit from what I understand now, but I mean, you had Dahlonega, you had Tifton, you had Statesboro, you had Savannah, you had Macon, you had I mean, you name it. Valdosta State, it was a whole circuit there. And I mean, Aldine played it, Luke Bryan played it. I was out with Corey and watching him do it, and him being able to take his teaching job and do away with it and just concentrate on music. I didn't know that existed. So seeing that gave me a goal and gave me something to strive for. And I mean, dude, my whole goal in the music business became his, and that was to sell out the Georgia Theater. And to be independently, like, relying on music as his full-time job. And watching him do that kind of lit a fire under me, and that became my goal. And it happened early on in my 20s. And man, we've since then we've just kind of kept our head down and our feet moving, and God's put some incredible people around me, man. And over the last 20 years, we've turned it into something you don't see often in music anymore.
You really don't. And you started at 13 on the music side? Like,
Yeah.
how did you even? Is there family ties to that? I mean, how did that spark?
The mom's side of the family, so my granddad played in a Navy band, but it's mostly church, man. I grew up playing in church, and a lot of that part of my life, my memory's really hazy on it, so I try not to speak out of turn too much. But to hear my mom tell it, it started even earlier than that, with a plastic guitar and a plastic microphone, putting on shows for an audience of one in the mirror, and she said it was absolutely terrible. And I believe that part of it, But man, it was one of those things from an early age. I didn't want to go to guitar lessons. I wanted to learn myself. I didn't really want to learn everybody else's songs. When I did, it was more or less just to learn the chord structure and try to write my own stuff from it, So that kind of just turned into, the cycle we got in. And like I said, man, I've never once, the only time I really tried to stop and smell the roses, so to speak, in my career was the night that my first song, Countrywide, went number one on country radio. And I was like, man, I'm going to take a break from the party, and I'm going to go to the back of the bus and really just smell the roses and try to enjoy the moment. And I went back there, and as opposed to doing that, I got in my head and ended up calling my manager and telling him I needed to go get some addiction things taken care of in my life. So, yeah, the only time I've tried to stop and smell the roses in my career, it led to me in rehab. So,
Golly.
Yeah, it's kind of wild, but man, it's been a hell of a ride, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
When you think about, growing up, was there ever anything else that you were passionate about outside of music?
I like playing ball.
Yeah.
But outside of that, I was kind of little. High school was the end of it for me. There was a couple Division III schools or something we probably could have tried, but man, around the time I graduated, I had a wreck soon after that, and man, it really kind of put everything in perspective. Not enough. It should have inspired me to kind of change my life and do some things different. My big takeaway from it was, man, everything can be over in a second. People talk about their whole life flashing before their eyes and events like that. I didn't see none of that. All I remember is looking out my passenger side window and seeing the yellow line. And I knew I was
And this
in
was
deep
from
shit.
the wreck, and what year was that? Was it?
I can't remember. It was soon after high school. I don't even think I was 20 yet. But yeah, all I really remember from it, to be completely honest, was going, oh man, that's it. You know what I mean? That's the end of it. And I remember thinking that and being on the backside of it, being like, man, I really need to pursue something I'm happy with. If this thing about living each day to the fullest is legit, and now I know it is, then I need to follow something I'm passionate about and try to do something special with it. And thankfully, I had a dude named Corey Smith kind of paved the way and showed me what was up.
The storytelling that comes from your music, I need you to know I think it hits home, not only for me, but a lot of your listeners out there. especially in rural America. But you do such a great job. And immediately, if you haven't been to a Brantley Gilbert show, you need to get your ass to a Brantley Gilbert show. But it's cool. Like, you're thanking the farmers, you're thanking the veterans, and you talk about your wife like I've never seen before, like how much you are in love with her. I mean, that's great. Like, people, those values, your military, your farmers, and your family, like, that's huge to especially people my age and people growing up, and just like those need to be your values. So the stuff that you've dealt with in your life to who you are today, like, it's awesome.
I appreciate that, brother. It's been a hell of a ride.
It really is. I mean, how much has your family kind of played an impact when it comes to all that? Because
oh man,
and you have a baby on the way, correct?
absolutely.
Congrats.
Yeah, we got
The
number
third
3
one?
on the way.
Congrats on that.
Soon. Which, it's kind of a surprise, but man, when God puts something like that in your lap, you can't do anything but embrace it and get excited about it. It's like I thought. We had talked about having a third. We started late. She's one of 3, and I only got one brother, but we had talked about it, and feeling like especially in today's society where I feel like we're kind of losing touch with the importance of a family unit, especially a home that has a moral compass to kind of give real guidance to children in a world that's kind of pampering them, and in my opinion, especially for little boys, kind of nerfing what a man in the making is supposed to be. And we have a unique opportunity. I'm not saying this for any other reason than it's true. Financially, we're able to support that. We can put a roof over his head and kind of lead him in the right direction, or what we believe to be the right direction anyway, and pray our way through it. And man, my wife I'd be lying to you, man's supposed to be the faith rock in his home. And I'd be lying to you if I took credit for that. That's my wife, and she really is a soldier of faith, and it's just a soldier in general, man. She's toted this pregnancy like you wouldn't believe. She started a school last year. A lot of people, may want to get back into teaching or something. She wanted to start her own school, to seeing what was happening in some of the school systems.
She started her own school.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we'd had some conversations. I was dead set against homeschooling our children just because what I knew about homeschooling wasn't necessarily the best scenario, what I'd been exposed to anyway in my life. And, she did an incredible job explaining to me how it had evolved and what it evolved into. And, we really kind of put some of these public school systems under a microscope and watched what was happening in some of them. And I remember, I don't spend a lot of time on social media, but a buddy of mine sent me a video of this guy going to like a school board or county board meeting, and talking about a book his daughter had checked out of the library that talked about some crazy shit, some stuff that kids shouldn't be reading, and he was pissed. And I remember telling my wife, like, hey, I really need to pay attention to this because I know my temper and I know me well enough to know I'm not going to a school board meeting to talk to anybody. If something like that happens, there ain't gonna be a whole lot of talking involved. And it just, I don't remember a lot from being a kid, but what I do remember is I was kind of hypersensitive to a lot of things. I remember being confused about a lot of things, and I feel like kids have enough to be worried about, especially with social media being what it is today. They have plenty to be confused about. I don't think they need any help with a lot of the things that they're being presented with, and that society in general seems to want to prioritize in children. So I have a strong disapproval of that, we'll say. And she wanted to create a school and an environment where kids are learning what we feel like is important to learn. So we have a lot of kids in our community also. She did her research and her homework and saw that, there are a lot of kids, and like every community, there's a lot of kids that have fallen behind. And a lot of it, you can't blame teachers when they have schools with so many kids in a classroom. It's inevitable. You're going to have some fall behind. You're going to have some get way ahead. So there weren't many opportunities in our community for like a private setting or a smaller class learning environment. So what she's created is 10 kids or less per teacher. learning things that are important to them. A few things that were important to me. I had a couple deal breakers, and I took them to her. I was like, look, I want these kids to learn history. I got a godson. I remember when he was 16 years old, he was at the house, and I had a World War II documentary on because I'm old and I like that shit. And he had no clue who Hitler was and what all that was about. It was like they completely just brazed over it, and I feel like history repeats itself in the worst way, if we don't educate ourselves to it and remember how bad things are, So history was important for me, for them to learn. I also wanted them to spend a bunch of time outside, like and at the farm. Go to the farm, learn how to grow something, man. Learn how to fish, learn how to self-sustain. I feel like, as opposed to some of the things that society feels necessary to prioritize in education of children, we're losing sight of what we feel like is important for them to learn. So, it turned into kind of a service to the community. It's nothing that's going to put you in another tax bracket. That school doesn't. It's literally designed to hopefully break even and hire teachers. She's been completely selfless about it, man. She blows my mind on a daily basis, and to be walking around as pregnant as she is right now and still killing it at the school, it's been crazy to watch. My life's pretty crazy, but I look at what she's doing, and man, I'm her biggest fan. She's the rock star to me.
Dude, that's unbelievable. That just threw a curveball to me. I didn't know any of that. Number one, the school's in Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, anything that I can do to help, because I'm especially on we need to teach the kids on just how to grow and be self-sustainable when it comes to at least your food, like whether it's a garden or something. So if there's anything that we can sponsor and help, fiscally, please,
absolutely.
Let us know. I love that. I had no idea about that.
That was really cool. My third deal breaker I forgot was, unfortunately, the school shooting that just happened was about 20 minutes from my hometown, and
right outside of Atlanta, is that correct?
It's closer. It's northeast, so closer to Athens than Atlanta.
Okay, gotcha.
But a buddy of mine, he works in EMA. He's kind of the assistant director of emergency services in our county, and he was there for the entirety of it. And man, it was. Unfortunately, it seems to be not a if scenario. It's a when scenario now, and that was another thing about the school that was important to me. Is I feel like a lot of these schools, shooters pick them for a reason. They're soft targets. I wanted guns in the school, and we had a guy that I really respect. He runs an organization that I have all the love and respect in the world for. His name's John Lovell, and he is the founder of it's a whole platform really called the Warrior Poet Society. And I tell people about John. I feel like if there's a guy on this planet that is trying to earn a PhD in Christianity, unapologetic masculinity, and just having a good moral compass, it's that guy. But he was a ranger. And he spends a lot of time in tactical training civilians, on safety, number one, but also, in scenarios where they actually need it. And he came down and worked with several of the teachers, and we followed up with, continual firearms training and situational training for them. And my head of security that had been on the road with me since 2005, he was ready to be done with the road. So he's actually kind of the resource officer there. And I wanted, a big part of, that environment for me is I didn't want it to be a soft target. Somebody comes in there, I don't know if they'll get shot. They'll get shot at the very least, So that was important to me. And, dude, I'll be honest with you, our church, my wife got me back in church a few months back, and our church, I didn't see this coming in a million years, especially not for us. Usually, anytime we get ready to buy something, whether it's land or try to get involved in a business, folks like us to pay a little bit more than we should. Man, the church came to us and completely just donated some things in the beginning, some space, and they've been really involved with the school. The pastor, and his wife is also a pastor there. They have a child that goes to the school, and they're extremely involved, and it's been amazing, man. It's that town's always been a special community. And it's really cool. So, our town was a really small town for forever, and they brought a mill to town. I forget, I think it was 50s, 60s, and the whole town kind of began revolving around that. Everybody worked at the mill. Both sides of my dad's family, my great grandparents worked it. And the whole town revolved around it. The church bought that building, and we just had our first Sunday there. And they're kind of trying to create an environment where, as opposed to the town's growing, right? And they wanted to take the mill and hopefully have the town revolve around the mill again, but instead of it being a major source of jobs and economic growth in our community, have it be faith centered and hopefully give our town something like that to concentrate on. And they're starting a community center with child friendly restaurants and stores and that kind of thing.
Awesome.
So it's awesome, man. It's been really cool.
That's rural America right there. Man.
Yeah.
Everybody getting together to make a safe environment, a fun environment, and an educated environment. Like, that's so cool. I want to hit on the security thing.
Mm-hmm.
That none of that what you just said blew my mind, because if you go anybody on your camp, when it comes to there's some big dudes. Like, your security even on the road, holy cow. I mean, you talking about there's no getting that close to Brantley Gilbert when he's on you're going to have to fight about 10 dudes that are 6. I mean, this guy right here he's like, how tall are you? 6'9".
Let me tell you a story about him though, right? So Jack's a formidable character, but when I talked to his partner, we were trying to find PJ. I wanted PJ at the school. I didn't really do when it comes to my kids. Hearing these scenarios, it was when we were talking to this, was on the back end of the Uvalde thing, and it was just hyper focused on not having my children in an environment that I was terrified of that day in and day out. I'm gone all the time, so I'm worried enough. PJ had protected me and kept me safe for 20 years. I didn't trust anybody else to take care of my wife and kids when I was out of town, and so we were on the search to find the right guy for our camp, and I went to his boss and his partner and said, Chris, out of all he sent me a list, and I said, out of all these guys, who has the best temperament when it comes to de-escalate the situation and being able to have a conversation in a low voice where it just kind of brings everything down? Because dude, our fan base is not, they're rowdy. What I mean? They fight a lot. They're rough. There's a lot of bikers. There's a lot of.
I love it, man. I'm
awesome.
telling you, haven't been to a Brantley Gilbert show, please go. I'm telling you.
It's entertaining. It's like a UFC fight concert all wrapped in one, But I said, I really need somebody that has really good situational awareness. One is really responsible about getting us where we need to be should something tragic happen. But also somebody that just can communicate with people and not be a dick about it. And he said, dude, the best guy on that list that I have for that is a guy named Jack. He said, but he's 6'9", and to a lot of people that's, it's intimidating and they feel like it's kind of foreboding or whatever. And I was like, shit, I can hide behind 6'9", bring his ass out, let's go. So he came out one weekend and man, we hit it off, and Jack's quickly become a member of our family. And man, I'm sure you've been out with a lot of guys. You've seen a lot of rigs, and when I say family, I mean it. It really is. We took 20 years, and we wanted to create an environment, especially after I got married. The backstage scene, as you know now, is a good bit different than it used to be. I wanted to create an environment where it was safe. Mm-hmm. Not just physically safe, but if one of my guys' wives wants to surprise them, they don't have to worry about showing up and there being a bunch of groupies or anything like that. You know what I mean? We wanted to create an environment for that. Also an environment where, for years you hear in several companies, I've heard, leave your problems at the house. Don't bring your problems on the road. And I mean, dude, that's just not realistic. We're grown. We live in a world that's full of conflict, right? And stress. If you don't have an environment where you can come out and there's no such thing as leaving that shit at home. You just suppress it, and we all know what that looks like when it when you can't suppress it anymore. It's a blow up. So I like guys to be able to have an environment where they can talk to somebody they trust and get stuff off their chest. And if they need to, I've got an open door policy. They come talk to me anytime if they want my take on anything. And man, it really is special. It's something that we're all extremely proud of, and it's something we'll do till the day I die. I don't know how to do nothing else.
Hey y'all, it's Pat, and I'm back to talk to you today about this episode's presenting sponsor, Ag America. Some of my favorite people. Ag America is your go-to financial partner for all things agriculture. As the largest independent financial firm dedicated to rural America, Ag America is changing the game of ag lending and leveling up financing options for farmers, ranchers, and landowners across the nation. I'm going to let you in on a secret too. The thing that sets this company apart from the rest are the people. They understand firsthand the unique needs of American farmers and ranchers because many of them grew up on the farm themselves. They take a farmer-focused approach to finance, prioritizing relationships over transactions to help you build a stronger financial foundation for your farm and your family. So whether you're looking to buy land or secure working capital, Ag America has your back. Visit agamerica.com today to learn more and see how they can help you achieve long-term financial success. Because when farmers thrive, we all do. Hey y'all, it's Pat. I'm here to talk about one of my favorite sponsors, Fresh from Florida. The food always tastes better when it's grown closer to home. When you look for the Fresh from Florida logo where you shop, you know you're getting the freshest, best tasting, and highest quality products available. From Florida farms to your table, our farmers work year-round to bring you freshness that only the Sunshine State can offer. Whether it's lettuce in winter or citrus in summer, Florida delivers flavors that celebrate every season. Fresh from Florida, grown by local farmers, enjoyed by you all year long. So all of these values that you have, and look, I've been very vocal about this. Like when you think about food, agriculture, the farmer, it's probably the most, it might be the only bipartisan thing that we have in this country at this point. So why is it when you think about those values you just talked about, in my opinion, it's where you come from, it's where you grew up, it's that rural America lifestyle. Like, why is it just in rural America? Because I'm telling you, these people that have yet to experience how we grew up, they just have different values. Like, why is that?
That's an excellent question. I'll say this, man. We work with some guys, you know, and I didn't go above the Mason-Dixon line much coming up. When I started traveling for music, it was my first exposure. I thought everybody above the Mason-Dixon line was so Yankees. You know, there's all city folks up there. I don't know why that was my, you know, that was my take, but man, I you know, that's why we wrote Countrywide. You know, me and Colt and Mike Deek were having a conversation. It's like, dude, there's country people in rural America all over America.
You're saying, was Colt on that?
Mm-hmm.
Countrywide?
Yeah, Colt was a co-writer on that. And, you know, we were both talking about how, you know, we had a different take on what it would be in other areas of the country. And we started seeing there's people like us all over the country. They just talk a little different, a little faster, maybe.
Correct.
But, you know, I'll say this, growing up around my hometown, you know, the small town environment, you know, we're all very well aware of what the negative aspects of that are, right? Because social media has done a great job of turning the entire world into the worst aspects of a small town. Everybody knows everybody's business. You know, it's everybody's in everybody's business. You know, what gets overlooked a lot of times is that exposure to a community coming together in times of tragedy. You know, we talked about that school shooting recently. Some of the stories coming out of there, you know, about the community coming, and man, just my buddy, when it happened, first thing he did when he got there, a lot of kids were, you know, they kind of exfilled into the football fields, no shade anywhere. So he called Home Depot just to get some tents brought and talked to some guy named Chip. And they ended up just bringing pallets and pallets and pallets, truckloads of water, everything they had in the store. And there were just citizens pulling up with cases of water for everybody there working, and all the kids, or, you know, local pizza places just dropping off food, local restaurants. And I mean, to me, that's what small town's all about. We had a conversation earlier today. There's the Burwell brothers. They own a company called C&B. They sell as many John Deere tractors as anybody in the world. And, you know, they talked about some stories from up in the Northwest that, you know, a farmer had a tragedy, this, that, and other, how the farming community, you know, in those areas came together. If you need a tractor, they'd have 3 there. You need, you know, regardless of whatever kind of equipment you need, if you didn't have it, you know, they show up. And it's like, you know, it's the one area of society left where, you know, we're every market, every aspect of business is competitive, right? I feel like farming is one of the last surviving breeds of collaborative, you know, and helpful. If you see, you know, it's like that old poem, it's God Made a Farmer.
Yep.
We talked about, you know, seeing the first smoke from a neighbor's place and just rushing to help, dropping whatever you're doing and going to help. You know, I don't know. I grew up seeing that my whole life, and my kids will too. You know, just where, you know, my papa and my dad were like that. No matter what was going on, something happened, they were going to drop what they were doing and go help. And I grew up seeing that my whole life, and that being the case, that's what you do.
I love that, man.
You know what I mean? I mean, and you're exposed to that. I feel like, you know, not only that, it's like these kids are growing up, learning old school, you know, just ways of life. Like, you know, I haven't met many kids that grew up on a farm that didn't understand work ethic and responsibility and, you know.
Take your hat off when you meet a woman.
Right.
Shake a
Look
man
in the
eyes
eye.
when you shake his hand.
Yeah, my son.
Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Get involved in the community as much as you can. I mean, I can sit here and you're spot on.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It's special, man. And I tell you, dude, it's one of the million things I'm proud of in my son. My son is, I don't know where he got it. He's got the most genuine heart I've ever, and I'm his dad, right? So he gets some cheat points, but
Yeah.
dude, I can't tell you how many times, like, men have come up to me, just like when he meets guys on the road or when we're out at the feed store or something, you know, he'll look you dead in the eye and he'll shake your hand. And as much as that little 6-year-old strength can do, he'll try to give you a firm one. And man, I mean, that's important to me. You know, I think there's people probably from other walks of life that could give a shit less whether a kid looks them in the eye and tells them their name when they shake their hand or is polite to them. But where we come from, man, I mean, it's the whole golden rule, right? Treat people how you want to be treated. Now, I would only hope that if we ran into a situation where we needed help with something, that community would come together for us. Why would we not want to be part of the community that comes to help others?
Yeah,
you know?
they raised you. I love that. I play a game on this show. I want to play a game with you, okay? It's called the What and Who game. This is sponsored by Levrack. You know this
Come
guy.
on, yeah, dude, Ryan, all right.
I talked with Ryan the other day, and he was like, who's coming on the show? I was like, I got BG coming on the show. He's like, dude, have you been out to his farm yet? I'm like, dude, I haven't, but I don't even want to hear it because Ben Ratliff on your team. You know,
Yeah.
Ben always tells me about it, and everybody tells me about Brantley's farm, and I had never been, but I heard it's unbelievable, and the Levrack people are like, dude, it's fucking unbelievable.
Oh, we're stoked. We're stoked, man. Those cabinets are freaking amazing, by the way.
Isn't it cool that you can, and I give them such a hard time, like, you made cabinets cool. And there's not a lot of companies that do that. Like, y'all are a cool company.
That's true. You know, and we worked, the first time we built the doghouse, which is that COVID project where all guys came down from Nashville, we built this thing in a matter of weeks. And, you know, we had a different set of cabinets in there, a lot of drawers and stuff. What I like about Levrack, for like a rural or a farm system, you know, they have little drawers you can do. They have that too. But, man, it's just really, you know, applicable to farm work, hunting work, you know, having those. And to me, having these stuff off the ground, I'm extremely obsessive compulsive. So, like, organization's awesome with them, but also being able to get stuff off the ground and put up. When you slide those doors shut, it looks clean. There's nothing on the floor. You know, they're clean. So our songwriter buddy of mine, Taylor Phillips, turned me on to him. And he got me on the phone with Ryan, and that was all she wrote, buddy. And
Dude, that's awesome.
They're so collaborative, too, which is really cool. Like, they'll say, all right, what are you trying to accomplish? You know, and they'll throw a workbench on that thing, you know, or whatever it is.
They will, yeah.
Need. Super cool.
Love those guys. What and Who game, sponsored by Levrack. All right. First one, I'm going to go with who. Who's going to win the national championship this year?
Georgia Bulldogs. 100%.
Why do you say that?
Nobody fucking with them.
Okay.
Period. As long as Mike Bobo gets his shit together. I see you looking at me over there. Tennessee ain't got a chance.
Tennessee.
You know I pulled for y'all. We ain't playing y'all.
Hey, I can't say. Actually, I can say I'm a Florida Gator, and
God,
I know that's
dog,
bad,
son.
but we still beat Tennessee in the swamp last year. Hey,
It's the swamp.
it's the swamp. Oh,
We
dude,
meet
if
in
we
the
if we weren't
territory.
playing in Jacksonville, we'd beat y'all every year if it was
Listen,
in the swamp.
I had him, son. You know what? All right. I'm
Hey,
just going to keep my blood pressure down. Drink this green
So-
top water.
what's the tattoo that you haven't gotten yet that you want to get?
Well, so both of them, so my whole upper body, I have clocks for both of my kids, and I have their names on my stomach, and then I have guardian angels on the side. My wife hates it because I gave their guardian angels AKs, but I thought it was gangster shit, you know. So I have a little bit of space left on my back. We weren't planning on having kid number 3, so that space I got to get him a clock and get his name on there and a guardian angel for him. So that'll be the next one.
That's awesome, man. Does every single tattoo you have kind of a story to it?
For the most part,
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of, you know, we're releasing this album,
Yeah.
Tattoos.
Yeah, I'm
It's
excited to talk about
kind
that.
of works right into it, man. You know, all of my albums up to this point, the title tracks and titles of them have had something to do with my faith. And that's intentional, because even in the chapters of my life where I was a long way and from my faith, it's always been a safe place to land, and it's always kind of been, you know, in me, and it's been my core. So that has a lot to do with my mama. But she's her and Jesus are like that, and my wife same
Yep.
way.
I love that.
Yeah, it's always been. It is my story, you know. All of my albums, if you listen to them chronologically, you'll have a good idea who I was in that chapter of my life and
you are
what I
now.
went through. And you know, this one will tell you who I am now. But it's the first album title that hasn't been either biblical or faith-based. But on the cover, you know, I'm topless at 40. Let's go. But a lot of my tattoos are, you know, about my faith and pertain to my faith. But my tattoos do tell my story. And they do what my albums have done in the past. So as opposed to gearing an album towards that, we really were able to put some songs. We let that song do that work and let the other songs kind of be a tribute to some of our past stuff. So you'll see some nostalgic stuff on there from, you know, some of the first albums I wrote stylistically. And we went back to that kind of some of the same methods we used in the studio, where we got away from some of the digital stuff and, you know, had a live band in playing, you know, together, which was really cool. So the whole album process was different this time, and man, we're so proud of what we got. So we got some stuff that's newer, that's outside of the box, stuff that we hadn't done in a long time, some stuff we've never done. So in 10 songs, we covered a lot of ground, and a lot of subject matter, and there's several themes on the album. So we're super stoked about it, man. I can't wait for folks to hear it.
I'm pumped. Okay, now I'm at who, and I'm going back to. You've got to go to a Brantley Gilbert show, because this next question's got to lead to it. And it's not like, and I'm telling you, from when you started to now, it's just mind blowing. But who is somebody that you want to go on tour with that you haven't? Because what you're doing now, going back to what I mean, the 5-finger death punch. I didn't even think. I was thinking, what are you even doing? And then listen, I'm here to say Brantley Gilbert brought Nickelback back. For you to go on tour with those guys, that was a big risk, man. I was like, hell no, he's not doing that. And then I went to the show. I'm like, Jesus, I didn't know how much Nickelback songs I actually knew.
But that's everybody. You know what? Everybody got on the hate train. It shows you what kind of bandwagon motherfuckers we got in society these days. Oh, they're terrible. They're the worst. Go to a show and say that shit on the way out. I dare you.
Yep, I'm with you. But who's somebody that you haven't been on that you'd like to?
That's a wild question.
Because you've been on, I'm telling you, you've been on a lot. You've been doing this a long time.
I was always a big fan of Three Doors Down. I think that'd be a cool one. I played some shows with Hank Jr. I'd like to try to pull off a tour with him, because he's a rattlesnake, man. I love that dude. He is so to the point and crass and just all the things you think he is unapologetically. It's a lot of fun to be around. You just want to stay on the same team.
Yeah.
Never want to get on that dude's bad side. But I think that'd be fun. That's a tough question. Man, 'cause you know what? Looking back at it, if I would have had a bucket list for that, I would have checked a lot of them off. Man, I got a tour with Toby Keith. You know what I'm saying? Like, that dude hung the freaking moon in my eyes, man. I was a huge fan of the way he could bounce in and out of heartfelt stuff to lighthearted stuff to put a boot in your ass to see American way patriotic stuff. Like, he was always a giant amongst men, and I got a chance to tour with him, man. And dude, he became a friend and a mentor, and you know, that was one of the best memories of my life. And I got to tour with Tim McGraw, solid ass dude. Got to tour with Kenny Chesney. Willie Nelson, Jamie Johnson, Lee Brice, Randy Houser, Justin Moore, Colt Ford. We took Luke Combs on his first arena tour. Man, dude,
you got a list.
Yeah, man, it's wild. So I really, I think more than having a goal to tour with one person or another, I'm kind of just open now. And that's the way, coming out of COVID, I was that way. We knew we had to do things a little bit different because people were still a little hesitant to get out. And I mean, even to this day, dude, I feel like we're still getting back to folks remembering how to act at shows and have an incentive to go see them.
That's true.
They didn't really, you know, as far as Five Finger was concerned, when that conversation started, it was like, man, do we really want to come out with the same old program where we take some opening acts that are up and coming, which I love. I love being able to do that. But our platform's changed a little bit too. We've been doing this a minute. You know, we're not necessarily the man on fire right now. So, you know, we wanted to motivate people, give them an incentive to come to a show. And to do that, we knew we had to create more of an experience than a show.
Yep.
Right?
What you have.
Put on a concert. We got to put on a show. And it worked. The Five Finger thing, dude, I'll be honest with you. If I told you going in that I thought it was going to work, I'd be lying my ass off. I didn't know. Yeah. I hoped. But dude, you're seeing a lot more people do it now and mix up the roster, and it's really cool. Like, the rules of music have changed. You know, you used to have these segregatory lines that were so defined that you had to be country, you had to be rock, or you had to be rap and only rap. Like, and I know a lot of people are kind of protective of our genre in particular and don't want those lines crossed. But let's be completely honest, like, you know, they talk down a lot of the rap and country stuff, dude, until you meet one of these dudes and know and realize that he's more country than most of the top 10. You know what I mean?
Spot on.
You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, it's always been more about what a song says. You know, but nobody, they're also not handing anybody diplomas or PhDs in what is and what's not country. It's more of an opinion-based thing, right?
Yep.
But
more of a lifestyle that you want to live.
yeah, and we've always known where we fit when it came to this genre. It was right outside the box, man, close enough to touch it for radio, and you know, free enough. I always felt like I was more of a songwriter than an artist, and that allowed me the opportunity to kind of get outside the box and do some stuff we weren't supposed to. But now, you kind of seen that door open for everybody. When you went to more of a streaming platform, you know, the days of folks listening to an album first song to last, unless you're Morgan Wallen or Luke Combs or Post Malone, are few and far between right now, which kind of opens the door for you to be able to do some stuff you hadn't done and get outside the box. I've always been a fan of that, man. It's like, you know, the lines are blurred. Gone are the days where you have to take a whole album. I remember taking songs that wanted to just be straight heavy, you know, and putting country instrumentation in them just to try to lean them towards whatever the radio single was. We don't have to do that anymore. And you know, doing that on your production albums and your singles kind of opened the door to be able to do that format, you know, in a touring environment and get away with it. And I really did feel like we were getting away with something.
Yep.
And then when the Nickelback guys came to the table, dude, it was, I didn't know what to expect. You never know what to expect. And they're Canadian. I hadn't met many Canadians before, so I didn't know what came with that. But dude, when we got out, man, I gotta say that it's one of the coolest group of guys we've ever been on the road with. It was super, super welcoming. And I remember that as much as I remember anything about anybody we've toured with. I remember we toured with Tim McGraw, man. He got off his tour bus, first show. The minute his tour bus pulled in, he got off of it and he walked to my band and crew before he even come talk to me. Introduced himself, was just so welcoming to them. Toby Keith was the same way. Skinner was the same way. You know, we wanted to pass that along to our openers. But, man, the Nickelback guys were so cool, and their crew was awesome. You know, them being a band and not one artist with a band behind them, you know, every one of those guys was cool to my
That's
guys, and dude, I was so thankful for that. But they came to the table. You know, usually when you go on tour with somebody, there's a lot of red tape. Like as an opener, they want to say, all right, you can shoot or you can't shoot pyro, or you can use this screen or you can't use this screen, or you know, you can use this part of the stage, but you can't use the thrust. On that tour, from the minute we walked, or we had the first phone call about, you know, the possibility of it happening, I stay involved in my business at a granular level, so I was privy. You know, my manager kept me privy to a lot of the talks from the jump on the calls that I wasn't on. I was on most of them, but I mean, man, I'm telling you, their production side of their touring unit, you name it, they were all about. It wasn't so much about who was opening or making sure we knew our place as the opener. It was like, hey, man, we want to have the best show on the road this year. What can we do?
Yep.
To make sure that you can do your part of that. And dude, it was collaborative more than competitive from the word jump. And I mean, fairly so. Like we're not a rock band, but then again, you come to the show and I felt like we held our own. You know
Shit,
what
no
I mean? Felt like
kidding.
we
I,
did
mean, I
our
would hate to
job.
be in a room if somebody said, Brantley Gilbert, you can't have pyro at your show. Jesus, I would hate to see your reaction. Because
It's not good.
you better wear a hoodie or nothing in that thing because there's some fire going all over the place.
Oh yeah.
That's cool, and it shows just your longevity in this industry and who you've been on the show with. Last one, so I'm at what, and this is the cool, I think, storytelling that you do because you've been pretty vocal about it. But like, what do you think would have happened if you didn't get in that accident that you got into?
Oh man. Well, I mean, there's
Like, where do you think you'd be?
dead or prison. But man, I think it's a bunch of things, not just the accident. Because if I sat here and told you that that accident changed my perspective and made me want to permanently change my life, as far as, you know, the things I was doing that led to it, I'd be lying to you. And I'm not in the business of lying to anybody but the police. You know, it was a conglomerate of things. It was my raising once, my parents. It was, you know, real friends around me. You know, one of my best friends in the world. You know, you hear your whole life your best friends are the ones that stick with you through anything. I found that not to be the case, man. And the reason I'm taking the wreck, you know, the wreck was about addiction. Right? It was about the trash that I'd let get into my life. Nobody wakes up one morning and says, you know, I want to be a drug addict and alcoholic. Nobody. It happens to the best of us, dude. I've been in treatment and I've bumped shoulders with billionaires who are you know, trying to fix that problem. It doesn't discriminate whatsoever. So it was more about what led to the wreck, and dude, that continued. I mean, to this day in my life, I'm an addict, dude. I'm a recovering addict, but you know, we'll die addicts. Those of us that key into that. So, man, there was a lot of things that saved my life, man. You know, the wreck changed some perspective. It made me really, well, to be honest with you, at that age and where I was in that chapter of my life, you know, I'd look at YouTube videos, and hell, one of them, man, it's not something I'm proud of, but one of the videos we shot, hell, I was walking people through the wreck and telling them what happened, and I was buzzing real fucking good, you know, while the cameras were rolling for that video we did. And, you know, looking back on it, it was like, man, I got caught up in this narrative that you know, it was tasty to be able to tell people, yeah, this wreck kind of charted the course for how the rest of my life was going to go, but that's not the case at all. It gave me an excuse to prioritize music and chase it. And it changed for perspective for a few weeks, made me want to do some things different. But the minute, you know, it was kind of in the rear view, you know, we started doing some of the self-destructive behavior that kind of it was a strong characteristic of my life till I was 26. But so I could say, man, there's a bunch of things that saved my life. First and foremost is the man upstairs. You know, my mama, and like I said, we hear our whole life that, you know, your best friends are the ones that stick with you through anything. I found that not to be the case. My best friend in the world came to me, this is years after the wreck, and said, man, his kids are my god kids. And this is a chapter in my life where I wasn't planning on being anybody's husband or anybody's dad. Where I really wanted to be a 1%er biker and play music on the side, you know. He came to me and he said, "Hey man," he asked if he could come by the house, and he got there, dude. He was teared up, and he said, "Man, as much as I love you, my kids love you. You know that they know they're your God kids, and man, the whole nine. We love you being around, but dude, being around the people you're around right now, doing the things you're doing, and using the things you're using, dude, I just can't have you around the kids." And dude, it was, I mean, floored me. I mean, that was more so than the wreck. Man, I mean, what kind of perspective changer is that? Like, I'm to a chapter in my life where it's not safe for me to be around my God kids. You know, what have I done? You know, you really that'll turn a mirror around.
That's a wake up call.
Yeah, so it's things like that, man. And to be completely honest, the missing piece of the puzzle was my kids coming into the picture. Again, dude, I went through a large chapter of my life where I didn't think I'd be anybody's husband or anybody's dad, and you know, for God to allow me to marry that woman, and to give me the kids he gave me, man, I'm the last dude on this planet that deserved that. You know what I mean? So I think the rest of my life, and when they came in the picture, you know, it was more than obvious that, you know, my new goal in life, dude. I mean, to be completely honest with you, somebody asked me the other day is what I wanted to be remembered for, and I knew they meant music. And I racked my brain, and I was dead silent for a good 2 minutes. I forget what the interview was, but for whatever reason, instead of what sounded good, I got honest, and I said, "Man, you know what? Like, I want to be remembered as a good husband and a good dad, because at the end of the day, you know, what you think about my music or what any of you think about me or my music doesn't fucking matter. Because if my kids think something different, I have failed. If my wife thinks something different, I have failed as a man, and I can't sleep with that. I'd rather not be here than live like that. So, man, it was man, I'm extremely thankful for, man, the ups and the downs in my life, and the folks that were, you know, strong enough to confront me and kind of hold me accountable. And I mean, you think about most of the solid people in your life, right? If you really think about the people that, you know, when iron sharpens iron, you want to be, you know, the 10 closest people around you. You are the summation of the 10 closest people around you. Well, my world's a little bit different. I can't be around just 10 people. So, you know, I have to be conscious about the people around me. And if you think about that dude around you that really is a solid dude in your life, I guarantee you he will hold you accountable if you're fucking up.
That's strong. I love that, man. Golly. What's next for BG, man? This is number one. This has been probably my favorite episode I've ever done on Like a Farmer. But what's next? I mean, so the album Tattoos just dropped not too long ago, so you've had that. But what's next? What's coming up with Brantley?
Well, man, in this chapter of my life, not just in music and life in general, because, you know, I was telling my wife the other day, like, I can't talk about music like it's a job. It's been my life for 20 years. You know, it's what everything else is revolved around. So, you know, in the next chapter of my life, music will always be a part of it. I don't know how to do nothing else. But thankfully, man, I've spent the last year having some awesome guys around me help build something that runs by itself without me micromanaging it. I missed a lot of things with my first two kids that I don't want to miss with this third one. So I'm going to write the next record, put it out, and then the next and the next. But to be completely honest with you, man, I'm really excited about bringing this third kid into the picture. We're building a new house. We're moving over to the farm. I'm really, really excited about that, man.
I can only imagine. How many acres is it?
It's only 365, but it's hard to find that kind of acreage in my hometown. I looked for 15 years and finally found it. And, man, with the help of John Lovell, some other guys. So in this next chapter of my life, the farm is a huge priority, man. And I call it a farm. We got some goats right now, but it's mostly about the hunting and fishing on that farm right now. But the goal is by the end of 2025 for at least not the big house that we're building at the top of the hill, but the rest of the farm, and that one, but for it to be self-sufficient and kind of out of the matrix, you know what I mean? Bringing in some meat chickens, some egg-laying chickens. We'll try to bring in a little livestock, and through fish and deer and livestock and chickens, and you know, we're all on a well there. I want to be kind of where, you know, not like doomsday preparation,
yeah.
man.
I know where you're going on this.
But
yeah.
I don't want anybody to be able to leverage the way we live our life. I want my kids to grow up in an environment they have to earn. You know, happiness is happiness really a realistic goal in life? I don't think so. I think, you know, happiness is supposed to come and go. You got to earn it, and I want my kids to earn everything. You know what I mean? So we want to make that for them something they learn how to work and they learn life on. So I'm pretty excited about that because, dude, I'm not a generational farmer. I cut some grass and turn some rows and work some cows. But man, let's face it. A lot of the challenges that face modern farmers don't apply to us. I don't want anybody to get the idea that I think I'm digging my hands in and joining
Yeah.
the struggle, because it's not that for us. But I do want to earn my place, and I want my kids to earn their place and be able to be self-sufficient and you know, earn the lifestyle that's made America what it is. You know, the good versions of it. You know,
God,
good
you're
parts of
spot
it.
on. You're so spot on. I appreciate you coming on the show today, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you having me.
This has been fantastic. And as always, I appreciate y'all tuning in. Brantley Gilbert, the new album is out. Tattoos, go listen to it. Hey, go stream the old stuff, too. He's been doing it for a long time, and it's all great. Appreciate y'all tuning in. As always, like, comment, subscribe, share, do whatever you got to do to be like a farmer.